When someone builds a new workbench when they already have a perfectly good workbench, they either have a really good reason or they're a content creator. So here it is, my new hybrid workbench. Well, it's been 10 years since I built the original split-top Roubo workbench, and it served me well over that time, but I've also had a lot of feedback since then about the original design. It's too big for my shop. The wood alone cost a fortune. It's too complicated to build. The hardware's too darn expensive. It's not knockdown. I can't move it. So I decided to build a new version of the workbench that has its roots in the original split-top Roubo design, but satisfies some of the needs that I've heard from you guys, as well as adding some features that I think you're really going to enjoy. Now you might be wondering why I decided to call this thing a hybrid workbench. Well, it's actually the same reason why I called my first book Hybrid Woodworking, because I needed a title. But more importantly, it's because I want the workbench to satisfy the needs of the type of woodworking that I do, which is a healthy mix of hand tools and power tools. And while any good workbench will satisfy the needs of both power tool and hand tool woodworkers, there are definitely some features that are really geared more toward one or the other. For example, on the old Roubo workbench, I had a sliding dead man. I could honestly tell you that in 10 years of owning it, I think I used it twice, and it wasn't even totally necessary when I did. So on this workbench, I went with a couple of dog holes in the front face as well as down this leg, and that allows me to clamp anything that engages with this vise that happens to be really large. I can also secure it over here, and I really don't need that sliding dead man. Another example in the old workbench is square dogs. Now, it's a lot more work to make them, but it's the classic method, so I included it in that workbench. But in the end, I realized that 3/4-inch dog holes are so much more functional. Square dog holes don't really provide you with much of a benefit. But with round dog holes now, I have a ton of accessories that I could purchase or build that work with these 3/4-inch holes. They're just much more versatile and easier to make. Now, even though a lot of power tools these days are battery powered, sometimes you still need to plug something in. So on the old bench, I added this giant power strip. And it worked pretty well, but I started to realize that I really don't need this many receptacles. Totally overkill. It was a little bit clunky because it hung off the back of the bench, and I was concerned that over time we would get dust or even a liquid into these receptacles. Well, I solved that with this bench by doing an in-leg installed single outlet. So I did a little digging and I found a marine supply place that actually had a receptacle that's totally sealed, keeps the dust and any liquids out, and it's 20 amps, which is great because I do have a 20 amp circuit over here. I have it installed in the front leg so it's easily accessible. And I know some of you are wondering, doesn't this now interfere with clamping on the front face, which is a great feature of a Roubo? Well, it doesn't, because I never actually clamp to the left side of my vise. Anytime I clamp something, large or really tall like this, it's always on the right side of my vise so that I can engage the rest of the workbench. I never clamp on this side. So your mileage may vary, but for me, this works. Now, just like the old bench, this one features a split top. The split makes the bench easier to build, but also adds functionality. You can use the split for easy clamping in the middle of the bench, and the gap stop can be propped up to use as a planing stop. Now, the old gap stop had a gap in the middle that actually became a bit of a pain because I dropped pencils or bits down there all the time. Bloop. So my new gap stop is totally solid. And the more I thought about it, the gap presented a cool opportunity for accessories. So I added 2 slots that allow me to build small blocks that can slide from one end of the bench to the other. If you're creative, the sky's the limit here, but I thought it would be great for something like a task light or a chisel and saw rack. Maybe you guys have some cool ideas. Let me know. Now, as far as construction goes, the sides are actually glued together, and the long rails are held in with bolts and cross dowels, and that means that if you ever need to move this thing, you could break it down into a reasonable set of parts, and you can move it from one location to another. Now, for mobility, I certainly could have cobbled together some solution using casters and wood, but Rockler makes these fantastic casters that attach very easily, and if you're concerned about a trip hazard, which sometimes this can be, they make these brackets that allow you to slide the casters in and out so you only attach them when you need them. So now let's talk about the hardware. Now, my old bench featured top-of-the-line bench-crafted hardware that runs about $1,000 for the entire set. This workbench, significantly cheaper. Depending on the brand you go with and the vendor that you use, you could probably get 2 vices like this for about $100, $110. In the video, the way I presented it, I have a quick release version on the tail vise position, and the front has a standard simple 9-inch front vise, and that ran me about $225, so significantly cheaper. Now, am I saying that these are as good as the Benchcrafted hardware? No, obviously they're not. The Benchcrafted stuff is amazing, but that doesn't mean that these don't work. And let me show you. The key to getting the most out of these inexpensive vices comes down to a couple of details. One is you have to put a little taper in the front here so that it actually sits a little proud at the top. And this way, when it inevitably flexes, when you apply pressure at the bottom and you have this tall jaw here, you're making contact at the top first. And then by the time the jaw straightens out, you're just adding more and more pressure along the workpiece here, so that taper helps quite a bit. Another thing you want to do is balance the vise. So a vise like this, if you just put a piece on one side, it tends to rack, which means it's moving closer on this side and opening up on this side. So an easy way to combat that is to use one of these simple little shop-made spacers here, or a rack stop. And this way you get that to the same thickness as your workpiece, put that on one side, put your workpiece in the other side, and now it's nice and balanced and you have a really good grip. And speaking of grip, the other thing you want to do is line your jaws with suede, some kind of leather, or this rubberized cork material, which I think is the best solution. It's got a great grip and it's nice and soft because when you grip your workpiece, you don't want to dent it. But having a nice sticky material in there means you don't need as much pressure to secure your workpieces. And overall, the construction was greatly simplified, and because I recently built a nice tool cabinet for my other workbench, I made sure that the leg span is the same so it accommodates the same cabinet. Now, coming up in a couple of weeks, we will have a video showing how the build was done, and of course we also will have a full course on this in the Wood Whisperer Guild, and that's where you're going to get all of the nitty-gritty and the details. But you know, to keep my promise of trying to make this bench as accessible as possible to as many people as possible, I've priced this thing during the pre-order phase, which is right now until December 3rd. I priced it as the lowest project we have ever had in the guild at $30. Now the price will go up once the project releases on the 3rd, but if you want to get in on it for $30, you get the plans and the entire course, all the videos, all the detail, and that's at thewoodwhispererguild.com. So you're probably wondering, what's going to happen with the old bench? This bad boy is going to be auctioned off for charity. I mean, this bench has a lot of history. I changed my son's diaper on this bench, was actually the first thing I did with it. And it means a lot to me, so I want to make sure that we do something great with it. What I'm going to do is an auction, a charity auction, specifically for Rob Kosman's Purple Heart Project. It's a great program where Rob has seminars, courses, where he brings combat wounded veterans in and helps them use woodworking as a form of therapy. It's an awesome program, and 100% of the proceeds from this auction will go toward that. What do you think, George? Pretty good? So that's the full story. I didn't build a new workbench because there was something wrong with the old one. I built a new one to satisfy the needs of an entire different set of woodworkers who still want a lifetime bench but don't necessarily want to blow a ton of cash on it. And also you want something that's mobile and a little bit smaller profile. So if you're trying to decide between the two, well, that's really what it comes down to, budget and the amount of space that they take up, because you could certainly apply a lot of the features of this bench to the other one. And both of them are absolutely lifetime workbenches, unless you've got a YouTube channel, then maybe not. So of course, as always, thanks for watching. I hope you're looking forward to this build as much as I am looking forward to presenting it to you, and I can't wait to put this thing to use. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. You mother humper. Freaking thing. And they're so easy to install. You've got to be kidding me. They're actually not that bad. I'm just being really dumb right now. What the hell am I doing? So easy, even a Spagnolo can do it. Woo!